Let me Zone African Motives. Let me welcome you to Zone African Motives, whereby we are going to look at Business Studies Grade 10, Term 2 notes. Term 2 notes. These notes are business sectors. These are notes on business sectors. So that is that. So on this presentation that you're going to have, we are going to look at, like it says, content details for teaching, learning, and assessment purposes. And as it says, learners must be able to define and explain the meaning of primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors, and give example of each sector. Also explain and discuss or describe the relationship between the sectors, and also make collage showing the relationship between the primary, secondary, and tertiary sector. So on this presentation, we are only going to look at this. We are going to look at this, and then the next presentation will now talk about another ones. So for this presentation, we are mainly going to look at the meaning of primary sector, examples of that, relationship between the sectors, and then also showing the collage, showing a collage relationship between the primary, secondary, and tertiary sector. So let us be together from the start of this presentation to the end of it. So without wasting much time, let us attend to the meaning of primary sector. Let us attend to the meaning of the primary sector, secondary, as well as tertiary sector. So we are first going to start by the meaning of primary sector. We are first going to start by the meaning of primary sector. As it says, the primary sector is the first stage in the production process. Is the first stage in the production process, meaning this is where production begins. This is where production begins. That is primary sector. This is where production begins. So that is that. For example, you can talk of growing crops on a farm. This is where a product farm starts. So that is that. They are saying this sector deals with the extraction of raw materials from nature. So meaning to say, it takes natural resources from the earth. It takes natural resources from the earth. That's what this statement means. It takes natural resources, uh, from the earth, from the earth. So that is that. For example, you can talk of mining gold from the ground, mining gold from the ground. So that is that. The primary sector is involved in collecting resources direct from nature, direct from nature. So it simply says no processing is done yet, just collecting. No processing is done yet. In primary sector, it's just collecting. When we are on this stage, this first stage that we are talking about is this primary sector. Also, it says these raw materials are then supplied to other business for further processing. So these materials are sent to factories for processing. For example, farmers supply milk to a dairy factory so that now they can now process it. They can now turn it into a finished product, into a usable product. So that is that, into a useful product. So hope we are together on that. So now let's quickly come to the examples of the primary sector. Examples of the primary sector. So farming. So one other example is what? Farming, which produces agricultural products such as cattle and wheat. So you know, when we talk of the farming, we can even talk of whereby we produce crops as well as animals. You can talk of wheat, you can talk of cattle. Forestry, which supplies wood for building or furniture. So forestry provides wood for building as well as for furniture. That is that. Fishing from sea or lakes and rivers. So you catch fish for food. Mining, which extracts minerals such as coal and gold from the earth. So you extract minerals like coal and gold. Packaging, packaging of the above raw materials. So you prepare raw materials for transport, then you package them. That is that. So let us now move on to meaning of secondary sector. Meaning of secondary sector. So here we are on the meaning of the secondary sector. As it says, the secondary sector is responsible for converting, processing, manufacturing of raw materials into final products. So here it changes raw materials into usable goods. It changes raw materials into usable goods. Into usable goods. That is that. For example, you can talk of milk as a raw, and then we are going to change it into cheese. That is that. It is the link between primary sector where raw materials are extracted from nature. So it means it connects raw materials to finished goods. It connects raw materials into finished goods. That is that. For example, cotton from farms, clothes in factories, you see. Also, it deals with distribution or transportation, retailing or service to other businesses or consumers. So that is that when you're saying it deals with distribution, transportation and retailing or service to other businesses or consumers. It also includes the manufacturing factories, construction, and energy generation. So it means that it covers factories, buildings, and electricity production. For example, building houses or generating electricity. Hope you are together on that. And now let us move on to examples of secondary sector. Examples of the secondary sector. So examples of secondary sector, we have motor industry. With motor industry, we know that motor industry makes cars. Makes cars. That is that. We have furniture industry. We know furniture industry makes tables. It makes tables. Makes tables. Can talk of chairs. From wood. From wood. Also, we have textile industry where one makes clothes from cotton. Makes clothes from cotton. So that is that. So now let us move on, good people. Let us move on, grade 10s. So now we are on tertiary sector. We are now going to be on tertiary sector. So we're going to be on tertiary sector. As it says, tertiary sector, it says this sector distributes goods processed in the secondary sector to consumers. So we're talking about distribution goods to consumers. So it moves products to consumer. This sector moves products to consumer. It moves products to consumers. That is that. So for example, drugs delivering bread to shops. So that is that. The tertiary sector aims to bring products and services within reach of the consumer. So they bring goods and services closer to people. So it means now they make it easy to access products and services. That is what they are, the tertiary sector. For example, supermarkets selling food nearby. Also, it says tertiary activities include all activities that distribute products from secondary sector. So it includes all services activities. It includes all service activities. Focus on helping people, not making goods. So that is that. The industry that offers service to consumers and other businesses. So distribute products from the secondary sector. Takes finished goods from factories to market. So that is that. So now let us come to the examples of tertiary sector. Examples of the tertiary sector. So examples of tertiary sector, it talks about food industry. Food industry. So food industry, we have also clothing industry. So food and clothing industry, we know they do what? They sell products. They sell products. They sell products. Then we have banking and insurance. Banking or insurance. With banking and insurance, they manage money and risk. These ones, they do what? They manage money, that is banking, and risk, that is insurance. So they manage money as well as they manage what? The risk. Tourism, transportation. So this one of tourism and transportation, they travel. That is about travel and movement services. And movement services. So that is that. Also, we have entertainment, retail, and legal services as one of the example of tertiary sector. So they do what we hear about movies for entertainment, and we also have lawyers now. We also have lawyers, like we're talking about legal services. Then we have examples or example shops, transport companies, electricians, doctors, and consultants. Hotels and schools are one of the examples of tertiary sectors. So those are other services. Those are other services. So now let us move on to relationship now. The relationship between the primary, secondary, as well as tertiary sector. So we want to know the relationship of those three. So we are saying the primary sector depends on the secondary sector for manufactured goods, such as machinery, equipment, and fertilizers. Example, a farmer may require seeds from another farm. So that is that. So we are saying primary depends on secondary, meaning you need equipment and tools, like as we have talked about machine, equipment, fertilizers. So that is that. Because farmers use tractors made in factories. So that is what we're saying the primary sector as well. It depends on the secondary sector. So it also says the primary sector is dependent on the tertiary sector for customer needs. So we are saying now primary depends on what? On tertiary. Because we are saying they need services like transport as well as market. So those are in the tertiary sector. So for products, for raw materials that are extracted in primary sector, they need transport for them to be delivered. They need market also. So that is that. The secondary sector processes the raw materials obtained from the primary sector into more useful products. So secondary sector depends on a primary sector. Secondary sector depends on primary sector because they need raw materials to operate. For them to operate, they need what? Raw materials. For example, no cotton, no clothes. So that is that. If there's no cotton, there are no clothes. So they depend on primary sector because the primary sector is going to supply them with cotton for them to make what? To make a cloth. The secondary sector depends on primary sector for raw materials and products, like we have said. So secondary depends on primary sector for raw materials, like we said. The secondary sector depends on other secondary industry, like they say, for example, BMW needs tire from Dunlop. That is another secondary sector player. So we are saying secondary depends on other secondary industry. That is what we are saying. It means industry support each other. A car company needs tires from another factory. So that is that. Secondary depends on secondary. Secondary sector needs the tertiary sector to sell their processed or manufactured goods and also for services such as banks, insurance, transport, and uh, communication. So secondary sector here, you're saying it depends on tertiary as well. So they need services like banking, transport. So that is that. So also it says tertiary sector depends on primary sector for raw materials that do not need processing by the secondary sector. So here we are saying the tertiary sector depends on primary sector. So uses raw materials directly sometimes. So that's why we are saying tertiary sector can use raw materials directly. So they can just take it from primary sector, tertiary sector, without involving the secondary sector. So that's that. The tertiary sector depends on the secondary sector for manufactured goods such as office machines or office furniture and stationery. Here we are saying tertiary depends on secondary. So they need finished goods to sell. That is that. So now let us move on, good people. Let us move on. Now we move on to examples. We move on to example as we have what? Example of the relationship link between primary, secondary, and tertiary sector. We have forest, then we are talking of timber, trees, or grown. So that is that. Primary, we are saying is forest, you grow trees. You're going to grow trees. Then you come to secondary sector. Here we have a paper mill. Timber is turned into paper. So it means now you're talking about secondary. Here it was what? Primary. Now we are on secondary. Now we are saying timber, which is here in primary sector, is now turned into paper. With timber, we can make what? Can make a paper. Now we have tertiary now. We have tertiary sector, whereby now a shop can now sell the books now. As it says, label printers, labels that will be pasted onto the corned beef cans. Or as we have talked about this paper, we can now sell the notebooks, we can sell. So as you know, under tertiary sector, this is whereby we provide services. So that is that, good people. And this is the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Please share with others. And please don't forget to hit the subscription button. Thank you.